Ryan stood in front of the Christmas tree and announced he was paying for a luxury renovation for his mother-in-law Brenda. Then he handed me a wrinkled envelope. Inside was a brochure for Sunset Pines, a state-funded nursing home. He said it was time I downsized. He didn't know I owned the bank that held his mortgage. Hello ladies, Mary here. They say that Christmas is the season of giving, but I have found that for some people it is actually the season of taking. We mothers spend our lives giving pieces of ourselves. We give our time, we give our money. We give our hearts until there is almost nothing left to give. And sometimes we look around the holiday table and realize that the people eating our food do not see us as people. They see us as appliances that have finally stopped working. My name is Evelyn, and this Christmas was supposed to be a celebration. I had just turned 68. I was healthy. I was independent. Or at least I thought I was, until my son handed me an envelope that told me exactly what he thought my life was worth. I stood in the corner of my son's living room, holding a tray of stuffed mushrooms that nobody was eating. The air smelled of expensive pine candles and the roast beef I had spent 5 hours cooking. My back was throbbing. My feet were swollen inside my sensible heels. But I kept a smile plastered on my face because that is what we do. We smile so we do not ruin the mood. Across the room my son Ryan was laughing. He held a glass of champagne in one hand and his wife Jessica's waist with the other. They looked like a picture from a magazine. Young, rich, happy, and standing right in the center of their circle was Brenda. Brenda was Jessica's mother. She was 60 years old, but she dressed like she was 30. She was wearing a red sequin dress that was far too tight. And she was laughing loudly at a joke Ryan had just told. Brenda had not lifted a finger all day. She had arrived 2 hours late. She had not brought a side dish. She had not even brought a bottle of wine. She just brought herself and her loud opinions. "Oh, Evelyn, you look so tired," Brenda called out across the room. Her voice was like nails on a chalkboard. "You should really sit down. You are making us all feel exhausted just watching you." "I am fine, Brenda," I said, tightening my grip on the tray. "I just want to make sure everyone has enough to eat." Ryan did not look at me. He was too busy refilling Brenda's glass. "Mom, Linda is fine," Ryan said dismissively. "Put the tray down, we have a big announcement." He walked over to the Christmas tree. It was a 12-foot monstrosity covered in gold ribbons. Jessica had hired a decorator to do it. It lacked soul, but it certainly looked expensive. Ryan picked up a large flat box wrapped in silver paper. It was heavy. He carried it over to Brenda with a grin that split his face. "Merry Christmas, Brenda," Ryan said. "We wanted to do something special for you this year. You have been such a help with the kids, and we know how much you hate your current setup." Brenda squealed. She actually squealed like a teenager. She tore into the paper, throwing scraps on the floor I had just vacuumed. Inside the box was a heavy piece of marble and a set of architectural blueprints. Brenda looked confused for a second. Then she gasped. Ryan explained, "We are gutting your kitchen, Brenda. Top to bottom. We are putting in the Italian marble you liked. The wolf range, the custom cabinets, everything. We signed the contract yesterday. $80,000 of upgrades." The room went silent for a second and then erupted in applause. Jessica clapped her hands and hugged her mother. Brenda started crying, tears that I suspected were mostly performative. "Oh my God," she sobbed, clutching the marble sample. "Ryan, you are the best son-in-law in the world. I cannot believe it, my dream kitchen." I stood there frozen. $80,000. I knew my son's finances better than he thought. I knew he made a good salary, but he also had a massive mortgage and 2 leased luxury cars. $80,000 was a fortune. It was money he did not have, or at least it was money he should not be spending. I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. I remembered the conversation we had 3 months ago. Ryan had asked me for a loan. He said things were tight. He said the market was down. I had given him $10,000 to help with bills. Apparently bills meant buying his mother-in-law a celebrity kitchen. Ryan basked in the adoration. He looked like a king granting favors to his subjects. Then his eyes flickered to me in the corner. His smile faded just a fraction. He cleared his throat. "And Mom," he said, his voice shifting from triumphant to serious, "we have something for you too." He reached behind the tree and pulled out a small white business envelope. It was not wrapped, it was wrinkled. He walked over to me. The room went quiet again, but this silence felt different. It felt heavy. It felt like bad news. Jessica came to stand beside him. She put on a sad, sympathetic face that made my skin crawl. "We have been doing a lot of thinking, Evelyn," Jessica said softly, "about your future, about your safety." I put the tray of mushrooms down on a side table. My hands were shaking. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "Open it," Ryan said, thrusting the envelope at me. I opened the flap. Inside was a single tri-fold brochure printed on cheap glossy paper. The front said Sunset Pines Senior Living. I opened it. I saw pictures of shared rooms with hospital beds. I saw a cafeteria with plastic trays. I saw a group of people in wheelchairs staring at a television. I looked at the back. State-subsidized living. For those on a fixed budget. I looked up at my son. I felt the blood drain from my face. "What is this?" I whispered. "It is a brochure, Mom," Ryan said. "Look, I know you love your house, but you are getting older. It is a big place for one person. The stairs are dangerous. We worry about you being all alone." "I am 68, Ryan," I said, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. "I run 3 miles every morning. I still do my own taxes. I am not invalid." "We know," Jessica chimed in. "But waiting until an accident happens is irresponsible. We think it is time to downsize. We found this place. It is very affordable. If we sell your house now, we can use the equity to help set everyone up for the future. To help set everyone up." Suddenly it all clicked into place. The $80,000 kitchen, the bills, the sudden concern for my safety. They did not want me safe. They wanted my house. They wanted to liquidate my life so they could fund their lifestyle. They wanted to put me in a state-funded warehouse for the indigent so they could take the proceeds from my home sales. I looked at Brenda. She was clutching her $80,000 marble sample, looking at me with pity. "Oh, Evelyn," she said, taking a sip of champagne. "It really is for the best. You do not want to be a burden on the kids, do you?" A burden. I had paid for Ryan's college. I had paid for his wedding. I had given them the down payment for this very house we were standing in. And now I was worth a pamphlet for a budget nursing home, while she got a luxury renovation. I looked at the brochure again. Sunset Pines. It was the kind of place where people went to wait for death. It smelled of urine and despair. I had audited their books once 10 years ago. I knew exactly what kind of place it was. I closed the brochure. I folded it neatly and put it in my pocket. I did not scream. I did not cry. I did not throw the mushrooms at Jessica's white carpet, although the thought crossed my mind. I am a forensic accountant. I deal in facts. I deal in evidence. And the evidence in front of me was irrefutable. My son was a thief and a traitor. "Thank you for the gift, Ryan," I said. My voice was ice cold. "It is certainly illuminating." Ryan looked relieved. He thought I was accepting it. He thought I was the same doormat I had always been. "I am glad you see it that way, Mom," he said, clapping his hands together. "We can tour it next week. We can get the real estate agent to look at your house on Monday." I picked up my purse. "I think I am going to go home now," I said. "I have a headache." "Oh, do not be a party pooper," Brenda yelled. "We haven't even cut the cake." I walked toward the kitchen to get my coat. Ryan was busy showing Brenda the blueprints, pointing out where the wine fridge would go. I walked past the kitchen island. Ryan's phone was sitting there next to the punch bowl. It was unlocked. The screen was glowing. He was so arrogant. He was so sure of his victory that he had left his digital life wide open. I looked at the happy couple celebrating their theft. They were not looking at me. They were not looking at the kitchen. I reached out. My hand moved faster than it had in years. I slipped the phone into my purse. I walked to the front door. "Merry Christmas," I called out. Ryan waved without looking back. I walked out into the cold night air. The snow was falling. I sat in my car and looked at the house I had helped buy. I looked at the brochure in my hand. I took a deep breath. "You want me to downsize, Ryan?" I whispered to the empty car. I pulled his phone out of my purse. "Let us see just how much downsizing you can handle." There is an old saying that if you want to know the truth about a man, you should not look at his prayer book, but look at his checkbook. Ryan thought his mother was just a confused old lady who needed to be managed. He forgot that for 40 years. I managed the books for the toughest law firms in the city. I know how to follow a paper trail, and I know that when the numbers do not add up, it is usually because someone is subtracting from the wrong column. I drove home in silence. The snow was coming down harder now, covering the windshield. I turned on my wipers, swish, swish, like a metronome counting down the seconds, until my son's life fell apart. I pulled into my driveway. My house was not a mansion, but it was solid. It was brick. It was paid for. I had bought it with my late husband 30 years ago. We had paid off the mortgage early by skipping vacations and driving old cars. We sacrificed so Ryan could have everything. And this was his gratitude. A brochure for a place where I would share a bathroom with strangers. I walked into my kitchen. It was quiet. Ryan called this silence lonely. I called it peaceful. I made myself a cup of tea, Earl Grey. I needed the caffeine. I was not going to sleep tonight. I sat down at my dining room table and placed Ryan's phone in the center. It was a sleek black model. Expensive, just like everything else in his life. I tapped the screen. It asked for a passcode. 6 digits. I did not panic. I knew my son. He was a creature of habit, and he was fundamentally lazy. I tried his wedding anniversary. Incorrect. I tried his daughter's birthday. Incorrect. Then I thought about his ego. Ryan loved himself more than anyone else. I typed in his own birthday. April 12, 1987. 041287. The phone unlocked. I felt a grim satisfaction. Stupidity is the most expensive luxury of all. I went straight to his email app. I did not care about his texts or his photos. I wanted the money. I typed renovation into the search bar. Dozens of emails popped up. The first one was from Lux Stone and Tile. Subject invoice number 4092 paid. I opened it. It was a receipt for the marble slabs Brenda had been hugging. $12,000, paid via wire transfer. I scrolled down to the payment details. Source account ending in 9088. My heart stopped beating for a second. Account 9088. That was not Ryan's account. That was my husband's trust. It was the emergency fund my late husband had set up to cover my medical expenses if I ever got sick. It had $200,000 in it. It was supposed to be untouchable. I felt a wave of nausea. How did he get access to that? I was the only signer. I went back to the search bar. I typed bank. I found an email thread from 2 weeks ago. It was between Ryan and a loan officer at the bank, where I had kept my money for 40 years. Ryan wrote, "Hey Steve. Attached is the power of attorney document. Mom signed last week. She is not doing great. Memory issues, you know? She wants to liquidate the trust to help with family estate planning. Please transfer 80 grand to my checking for the contractor. She wants to surprise her in-laws." Steve the banker replied, "Sorry to hear about Evelyn. She was always so sharp. Documents look in order. Transfer initiating tomorrow." I stared at the screen. My hands were gripping the table so hard my knuckles were white. Memory issues. Surprise for her in-laws. He had painted me as senile to my own banker. He had stolen my identity. He had forged a power of attorney document, claiming I was mentally incompetent. so he could drain my life savings to buy a kitchen for the woman who mocked me. I searched his sent folder for the attachment. I found it. momposign.pdf. I opened the PDF. I zoomed in on the signature at the bottom. It looked like my signature. A little shaky, a little weak. Exactly how a forger thinks. An old woman signs her name. I put the phone down. I looked around my kitchen. The kitchen where I had cooked Ryan's birthday dinners. The kitchen where I had bandaged his scraped knees. The kitchen he wanted to sell so he could put me in Sunset Pines. He did not just want my house. He had already started eating away at my safety net. If I had accepted the nursing home, he would have had control over everything. He would have drained every penny I had until I was destitute. And then he would have left me to rot in that state facility while he drank champagne in Brenda's new kitchen. The sadness I had felt at the party evaporated. It was replaced by something cold and hard. It was the feeling I used to get when I found a discrepancy in a ledger during a fraud investigation. It was the thrill of the hunt. I took a sip of my tea. It was cold. I picked up the brochure for Sunset Pines. I tore it in half. Then I tore it in half again. You made a mistake, Ryan. You thought I was a helpless old woman. You forgot that I am the one who taught you how to count. And now I am going to teach you how to subtract. I picked up my landline. It was 11 o'clock at night on Christmas Eve. I dialed a number I had not called in 5 years. Hello, a gruff voice answered. It sounded sleepy. Mr. Henderson, I said. This is Evelyn Vance. There was a pause. Evelyn? Is everything okay? It's Christmas Eve. I know, I said. I need a favor. You are still the senior VP of fraud at the bank, correct? Yes, he said. Good, I said. I need you to freeze some accounts first thing in the morning. And then I need you to help me call in a loan. What accounts? He asked. My son's, I said. And the loan is the private mortgage I hold on his house. Evelyn, Henderson said, his voice waking up. What is going on? I am doing some estate planning, I said. I am cutting out the rot. A crime scene is messy. There is blood, there is glass, there is chaos. But a financial crime scene? It is clean, it is quiet. It is just a series of numbers in a column that do not add up. Ryan thought he was clever because he wiped his feet before entering my house. But he forgot to wipe his digital fingerprints. He left a trail of breadcrumbs so thick a blind pigeon could follow it. And unfortunately for him, I am not a pigeon. I am a hawk. The sun rose on Christmas morning. It was a gray steel-colored light that filtered through my kitchen curtains. I had not slept. I had spent the entire night with my son's phone and a pot of strong coffee. Ryan's phone had been buzzing incessantly since 6 a.m. 35 missed calls. 12 text messages. Most were from Jessica. Where is your phone? The contractor needs the second deposit by noon, or they won't start demo on Monday. One was from Brenda. Can we upgrade the backsplash to the gold inlay? It's only another $5,000. I ignored them. I was deep in the archives of his sent folder. The $80,000 for the kitchen was just the tip of the iceberg. I found a transfer from 2 months ago for $40,000. The recipient was JW Consulting. Jessica's maiden name was Williams. I clicked on the details. The memo line said, Business Startup Loan. Jessica did not have a business. Jessica had a closet full of designer handbags and a lifestyle blog that had 3 followers. My son had stolen $40,000 from my trust. Money meant for my chemotherapy if I ever needed it, to fund his wife's vanity project. I wrote the number down on my yellow legal pad. Kitchen $80,000. Jessica $40,000. Total theft $120,000. I closed the email app and opened the Photos app. I went to the recently deleted folder. People always forget the trash bin. There I found a picture of a document. It was a screenshot of a real estate listing. It was my house. There was a text exchange underneath the screenshot. between Ryan and a realtor named Brad. Ryan wrote, "The old lady is moving to a facility in January. We need to list the house by February 1st. She has about $500K in equity. We want to price it for a quick sale." Brad replied, "Got it. Does she know she's moving?" Ryan wrote, "She will do what she's told. She's losing it a bit. Just get the paperwork ready." I stared at the screen. The old lady. I put the phone down gently. I walked into my study and opened the large fireproof safe in the closet. I spun the dial. Right to 15. Left to 32. Right to 8. I pulled out a thick blue folder. It was labeled Ryan Mortgage Note. 10 years ago, when Ryan bought his McMansion, he couldn't qualify for the full jumbo loan. Because his credit was mediocre, I had stepped in. I lent him $200,000 as a private second mortgage to cover the down payment and lower his rate. We had signed a formal promissory note. I insisted on it. Business is business, I had told him. He had rolled his eyes then, but he signed it. I opened the document and scanned the fine print until I found paragraph 14, the demand clause. Lender Evelyn Vance reserves the right to demand full repayment of the outstanding principal balance at any time with or without cause upon 30 days written notice. I smiled. It was a terrifying smile. I caught my reflection in the window and hardly recognized myself. Most family loans are handshakes. Mine was a loaded gun. My phone rang. It was Mr. Henderson from the bank. It was 7:30 a.m. on Christmas morning. "Evelyn," his voice was gravelly. "I did it. I put a hard freeze on the trust account. I flagged the transfer to the contractor as fraudulent. It hasn't cleared the Fed wire yet. We stopped it." "Good," I said. "And Evelyn," he hesitated. I looked at the access logs. The login came from an IP address registered to Ryan's home in Westlake. "He accessed your account at 3 a.m. 3 nights ago." "I know," I said. "This is a felony, Evelyn. Wire fraud, identity theft, elder abuse. Do you want me to file a SAR? A suspicious activity report with the feds? Once I do that, the FBI gets involved." I looked at the picture of Ryan on my desk. He was 5 years old, holding a fish he had caught, looking at me like I was the center of his universe. "Not yet," I said. "Filing a report puts him in jail." "I don't want him in jail, Bob." "You don't?" Henderson asked, surprised. "No," I said, running my finger over the demand note. "If he goes to jail, he can't feel the pain of losing everything he built. I want him on the street, Bob. I want him to know exactly what it feels like to be homeless." "Okay," Henderson said. "The accounts are frozen. The checks he wrote against that money are going to bounce high enough to hit the moon." "Merry Christmas, Bob," I said. "Merry Christmas, Evelyn." I hung up. I heard a car pull into my driveway. I looked out the window. It was Ryan's Range Rover. He was driving too fast. He skidded on the ice. He jumped out of the car. He was wearing the same clothes as last night. He looked frantic. He pounded on my front door. Mom, open up. It's an emergency." I sat back down at the kitchen table. I took a sip of my tea. Let the show begin. I walked to the front door. I unlocked the deadbolt. I did not open it immediately. I let him pound for another 10 seconds. Panic is a good cardiovascular exercise, and Ryan needed the workout. When I finally opened the door, Ryan practically fell into the hallway. He smelled of stale champagne and stress sweat. His eyes were wild, darting around the room. "Mom," he gasped. "Why didn't you answer? I've been calling the house line for an hour." "I was having tea," I said calmly, stepping aside to let him in. I unplugged the landline. I wanted a quiet Christmas morning. Ryan didn't listen. He ran past me into the kitchen. He scanned the counters. He scanned the table. "My phone," he panted. "I left it here last night." "I know I did. Please tell me you found it." I walked slowly into the kitchen. I pointed to the fruit bowl in the center of the island. The black phone was sitting right on top of the bananas. Is that it? I asked. Ryan grabbed it like it was a lifeline. Oh, thank God. He immediately tapped the screen. He entered his passcode, 041287, so fast his thumbs were a blur. I watched his face. I watched the exact moment the notifications hit him. His eyebrows shot up. His mouth opened slightly. The blood drained from his cheeks, leaving him looking pasty and gray. He had seen the alert from the bank. Wire transfer failed. Account frozen. Fraud suspicion. No, he whispered. No, that's not right. He tapped furiously. Insufficient funds? Frozen? What the hell? He looked up at me. His eyes were suspicious. Mom, he said slowly, did the bank call you? I took a sip of my tea. I looked him dead in the eye. The bank, I asked, putting a confused tremor in my voice. Why would the bank call me on Christmas? Is something wrong, Ryan? He studied me. He was looking for a crack, but he was blinded by his own narrative. He had spent months convincing himself and everyone else that I was losing my mental faculties. He couldn't pivot now. If he accused me of freezing the account, he would have to admit I was smart enough to catch him, and his ego wouldn't allow that. No, he muttered, looking back at his screen. No, it's just a glitch. A computer error. It has to be. He started dialing a number, probably Henderson's private line, but I knew Henderson wouldn't answer. Henderson was at church with his grandkids, just like he was every Christmas morning. And even if he did answer, Henderson was loyal to the person who signed the checks, not the person trying to steal them. Damn it, Ryan yelled, ending the call. Voicemail. He looked at me. Mom, I have to go. I have to fix this before the contractor shows up tomorrow. Brenda is expecting the demo crew at 8 a.m. Of course, I said. You wouldn't want to disappoint Brenda. He didn't catch the sarcasm. He was already halfway out the door. Merry Christmas, Mom. He threw over his shoulder. He didn't hug me. He didn't ask how I was. He just clutched his phone, his digital accomplice, and ran back to his luxury SUV. I watched him back out of the driveway, his tires spinning on the ice. He was in a rush to fix a problem that was unfixable. I locked the door. I went back to my study. I opened the file cabinet. I pulled out my vintage typewriter. I know. I have a computer. But there is something official, something final about a letter typed with ink and impact. I inserted a sheet of heavy cotton bond paper. To Ryan Vance. Re-notice of default and demand for payment in full. Dear borrower, pursuant to the promissory note, dated August 15, 2014, paragraph 14, the lender Evelyn Vance hereby exercises the right to demand immediate repayment of the outstanding principal balance of $185,400. Payment is due within 30 days. Failure to remit payment will result in immediate foreclosure proceedings on the property located at 4402 Oak Ridge Drive. Governing law, the State of New York. Signed, Evelyn Vance. I pulled the paper out of the roller. The sound zip was satisfying. Ryan thought he had a cash flow problem because his wire transfer bounced. He didn't realize he was about to have a housing problem. He wanted to put me in Sunset Pines because he thought my house was an asset he could liquidate. He forgot that his house was an asset I controlled. I folded the letter. I placed it in a certified mail envelope. But I wasn't going to mail it. That would take too long. And the courts were closed for the holiday. No, I had a better idea. I picked up the phone again. I dialed a number for a private company that operates 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Ace Process Servers. A voice answered. We deliver bad news anytime, anywhere. Merry Christmas, I said. I have a priority rush job. I need a document delivered to a Mr. Ryan Vance. He will be at his in-laws' house in Westlake. and I need it delivered during Christmas dinner." The dispatcher laughed. "That's cold, lady. It's double the rate for holidays." "I will pay triple," I said, "if you make sure to hand it to him right when they are cutting the turkey." "Consider it done," he said. I hung up. I walked to the window. The snow was stopping. The sun was trying to break through the clouds. Ryan wanted a memorable Christmas. I was going to give him one. There is a special kind of silence that falls over a room when a process server walks in. It is not the silence of peace. It is the silence of a guillotine blade hanging in the air. Ryan wanted to be the big man. He wanted to play the role of the benevolent patriarch, handing out marble kitchens and nursing home brochures, but he forgot that in the game of life, the person holding the debt is the only one who truly has the power. And I held all of it. I sat in my living room at 3 p.m. on Christmas Day. The television was on, playing It's a Wonderful Life, but the sound was muted. My phone was in my hand. At 3:14 p.m., a text message came through from the private number of Ace process servers. "Delivery complete." Subject was carving the turkey. He dropped the knife. "Merry Christmas." I smiled. I allowed myself a single piece of shortbread cookie. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. The ringtone was Joy to the World. The caller ID was Ryan. I let it ring 3 times. I wanted him to sweat. I wanted him to imagine. I was busy packing for Sunset Pines. "Hello," I answered, my voice breezy. "Mom," Ryan screamed. The background noise was chaotic. I heard Jessica crying. I heard Brenda shouting something about a lawyer. What the hell is this? A sheriff's deputy just walked into my dining room. It wasn't a deputy, Ryan, I corrected him calmly. It was a process server. There is a difference. You served me legal papers on Christmas, he sputtered. Are you insane? Brenda is crying. The kids are terrified. I imagine they are, I said. It is scary when reality crashes through the front door. This says demand for payment in full. Ryan read, his voice shaking with rage. $185,000? Mom, you can't ask for that all at once. The note says I have 30 years. Read paragraph 14, Ryan, I said, sipping my tea. The demand clause. I can call the note at any time with or without cause. I am exercising that right. But why? He yelled. We are family. You don't foreclose on family. Family doesn't steal $120,000 from their mother's cancer fund to buy Italian marble, I said. The line went dead silent. The shouting in the background seemed to fade away. You know, Ryan whispered. I know about the $80,000 for the kitchen, I said, counting off on my fingers. I know about the $40,000 for Jessica's fake consulting business. I know about the power of attorney you forged. I know about the realtor named Brad. Mom, I can explain, he started, the panic rising in his throat. It was a loan. I was going to pay it back. You were going to sell my house and put me in a state facility, I said. That is not a loan, Ryan. That is liquidation. I didn't mean it like that, he stammered. We just wanted you safe. I am safe, I said. My money, however, was not, but it is now. I froze. The trust, Ryan. The wire transfer to the contractor has been canceled. The accounts are locked. You stopped the transfer? Yes. But, Ryan's voice cracked, the contractor. He already bought the materials. He's coming tomorrow at 8 a.m. to start demolition. If I don't have the funds, he sues me. He has a penalty clause in the contract. That sounds like a you problem, I said. Mom, please, he begged. I don't have $80,000 liquid. If you call the mortgage note, I'll be bankrupt. You have to stop this. I am not stopping anything, I said. You have 30 days to pay me. $185,000. If you don't, I will foreclose on your house. And Ryan? What? He sobbed. Don't bother looking for the spare key to my house, I said. I changed the locks an hour ago. I hung up. I looked at the phone. It felt heavy like a weapon that had just been fired. But I wasn't done. The mortgage was the long game. The foreclosure would take months. I needed to hurt him now. I needed to cut off his oxygen immediately. I knew Ryan's wallet better than he did. I knew that he carried a platinum American Express card. It was flashy. It was heavy. He used it for client dinners to show off. But it wasn't his card. 10 years ago, when he started his first job, I added him as an authorized user on my account, so he could buy suits for interviews. He had never removed himself. I had never removed him because he rarely used it, and when he did, he paid me back. But today he was desperate. I logged into my American Express app. There it was, a pending charge from 10 minutes ago. $500, the liquor cabinet Westlake. He was buying expensive booze to calm his nerves, or maybe to calm Brenda down. I clicked on Manage Cards. I scrolled down to Ryan Vance, authorized user. I hovered my finger over the button. That said Remove Card Member. Repo Woman, I whispered to myself. I tapped the screen. Confirm? Yes. 5 minutes later, my phone rang again. It was Ryan. I answered on the first ring. I could hear the background noise of a cash register beeping and the low murmur of annoyed customers. Mom, Ryan hissed, his voice tight with panic. I am at the liquor store. The card. The platinum card. It didn't work. I know, I said. I received the notification. The cashier cut it up, he squeaked. In front of a line of people. He said the issuer reported it as compromised. Do you know how embarrassing that is? Is it more embarrassing than receiving a nursing home brochure from your son on Christmas Eve? I asked lightly. Mom, stopped playing games. That was my emergency card. I need to buy this scotch for Brenda. She is freaking out about the process server. I need to calm her down. Brenda can drink tap water, I said. Or perhaps she can drink the champagne she didn't bring to my house. You really removed me? I removed a thief from my credit line, I corrected. Authorized users are for family members, Ryan. You made it very clear last night that you do not consider me family. You consider me a liability to be managed. So I managed you. I have no cash, he shouted. Jessica took my debit card to get her nails done this morning. I have nothing. Then I suggest you put the bottle back on the shelf and walk out with your dignity, what little is left of it, I said. And Ryan? What? Don't bother trying to use the Home Depot credit card either, I said. I closed that account 10 minutes ago. Good luck with the renovation. I hung up. I sat in the silence of my living room. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the floor. I felt a strange sense of calm. For years I had worried about Ryan. I worried if he was eating enough, if he was working too hard, if he was happy. I had shielded him from the harsh realities of the world. I realized now that I had done him a disservice. I had raised a soft man. And soft men make terrible decisions when they are desperate. I looked at the yellow legal pad, where I had written down the contractor's information from his emails. Lux Stone and Tile. Owner Mike Russo. Ryan had said the demo crew was coming tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. He was banking on the fact that the wire transfer I stopped wouldn't register as failed in the contractor system until the banks opened on December 26th. He was hoping to get the demolition started before the check bounced, trapping the contractor into finishing the job or suing him later. He wanted to destroy Brenda's kitchen, so there was no going back. I picked up my phone. I dialed the number for Lux Stone and Tile. It went to voicemail, of course. It was Christmas. But I am a forensic accountant. I know how to find people. I looked up the business registration. I found the owner's home address. I found his home landline. I dialed Mike Russo's home number. Hello, a man answered. He sounded like he had a mouthful of ham. Mr. Russo, I asked. Yeah, who's this? This is Evelyn Vance, I said. My son Ryan hired you to renovate a kitchen in Westlake. You are scheduled to start demolition tomorrow morning." "Oh yeah," Russo said, his tone shifting to professional. "Mrs. Vance, Ryan mentioned you might be, helping with the financing. Is everything okay?" "No, Mr. Russo, it is not," I said clearly. "I am calling to inform you that the wire transfer for your deposit was initiated fraudulently using a power of attorney document that I did not sign. The bank has flagged it as theft. The funds have been frozen. The check is going to bounce." Silence on the other end. The sound of chewing stopped. "Are you serious?" Russo asked. "Dead serious," I said. "If your crew touches a single cabinet in that house tomorrow, you will not only be working for free, but you will also be named as an accessory in a wire fraud investigation. I have already spoken to the senior VP of fraud at the bank." "Jesus," Russo muttered. 80 grand. He told me the money was liquid. "The only thing liquid about my son right now is the sweat running down his back," I said. "Do not demo that kitchen, Mr. Russo." But I paused. An idea formed in my mind, a way to make the humiliation complete. "But show up," I said. "Show up at 8 a.m. Bring your crew. Bring your sledgehammers. Let them think it is happening." "Why?" Russo asked. "Because I will be there," I said. "And I want to see the look on Brenda's face when you tell her the truth." Russo was silent for a moment. Then he let out a short, rough laugh. "I hate getting stiffed, Mrs. Vance," he said. "I'll be there. 8 a.m. sharp." "Merry Christmas, Mr. Russo." "Merry Christmas, Mrs. Vance." I put the phone down. I walked to my closet. I picked out my outfit for tomorrow. My black wool coat, my tall leather boots, the red scarf Ryan had given me 3 years ago, the last genuine gift he had ever bought me. I went to bed early. I slept like a baby. The next morning I woke up at 6 a.m. I drank my coffee. I drove to Westlake. I parked my modest sedan down the street from Brenda's house. I watched as Ryan's Range Rover pulled into the driveway. He looked haggard. He hadn't shaved. Then the Lux stone and tile vans arrived. 2 of them, big white vans with men in coveralls jumping out. Brenda came out onto the porch in her silk robe, clutching a coffee mug. She was waving at the workmen, like the Queen of England greeting her subjects. She pointed at the front door, ushering them in. She thought she was getting a palace. She was about to get a ruin. I put my car in gear. I drove slowly up the street and pulled in right behind the contractor's van, blocking them all in. I stepped out of the car. The air was crisp. The snow crunched under my boots. It was time for the demolition, but we weren't going to be breaking cabinets. We were going to be breaking egos. There is a specific kind of theater that happens when a lie falls apart. It usually happens in acts. Act 1 is denial. Act 2 is panic. And Act 3 is the circular firing squad where everyone tries to blame everyone else. I parked my car and walked up that driveway like I was the director of the play. And it was time to bring down the curtain. I walked up the driveway. The snow was packed hard under my boots. Crunch, crunch. Brenda was standing in the open doorway, holding a mug that said "World's Best Mom." She was practically vibrating with excitement. "Evelyn," she called out, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "You came. I didn't think you had the stomach for a renovation. It's going to be dusty." She waved a hand at the house. Come in. Say goodbye to this ugly linoleum before the boys smash it to pieces." I walked past her without a word. I entered the kitchen. It was crowded. Ryan was standing by the island, looking pale and sweaty. Jessica was leaning against the counter, scrolling on her phone, looking bored. And Mike Russo, the contractor, was standing in the center of the room with 3 of his largest crew members. They weren't holding sledgehammers. They were holding their arms crossed over their chests. Ryan saw me and his eyes went wide. He looked from me to Russo, and I saw the realization hit him. He knew I'd called. "Mom," Ryan stammered, stepping forward. "What are you doing here?" We're busy." "I know," I said, unbuttoning my black wool coat. I came to watch the show. There is no show, Ryan hissed, grabbing my elbow to steer me toward the door. You need to leave. We're starting demolition. Actually, Mike Russo's voice boomed through the kitchen. It was a deep, gravelly baritone that commanded immediate attention. We aren't starting anything. The room went silent. Jessica looked up from her phone. Brenda stopped smiling. What do you mean? Brenda asked, looking at the contractor. Ryan paid the deposit. I saw the receipt. Chop chop. I want those cabinets gone by lunch. Russo ignored her. He looked straight at Ryan. I tried to run the wire confirmation number this morning, Russo said. The bank flagged it. Invalid funds. Fraudulent authorization. Ryan turned a shade of green that matched the ugly linoleum. It's a mistake, Ryan lied, his voice cracking. I told you, Mike. It's a bank glitch. I can write you a check right now. A check? Russo laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. Kid, your mother called me last night. She told me the money you tried to send was stolen from a trust fund. Brenda gasped. She dropped her world's best mom mug. It shattered on the floor, splashing coffee onto her fuzzy slippers. Stolen? Brenda shrieked. Ryan, what's he talking about? Ryan backed up until he hit the counter. He looked like a cornered rat. He's lying, Ryan shouted. Mom is. Mom's confused. She gave me power of attorney. She wanted to do this. He pointed at me. Tell them, Mom. Tell them you authorized it. All eyes turned to me. Brenda looked horrified. Jessica looked annoyed. Russo looked bored. And Ryan looked desperate. I took a slow breath. I smoothed my scarf. I didn't authorize a damn thing, I said clearly. Ryan forged my signature. He stole $120,000 from my medical trust. And yesterday, I froze every asset he has access to. I turned to Russo. Mr. Russo, thank you for coming. You can pack up your crew. There won't be a kitchen today. Russo nodded at me, a sign of respect. Yes, ma'am, sorry for the trouble, he signaled his guys. They turned to leave. No, Brenda screamed. She actually grabbed Russo's arm. You can't leave. It's Christmas. I have plans. I have a design. Russo gently removed her hand from his arm, like he was plucking off a piece of lint. Lady Russo said, the only design you got right now is a crime scene. If you have ever seen a balloon deflate, you know it makes a sad sputtering sound. That is exactly what Ryan sounded like as his life hissed out of him. In front of his mother-in-law. Brenda, however, did not deflate. She exploded. She was a woman who defined her worth by what she owned. And I had just stripped her of her crown jewel. Russo and his crew marched out the front door, their heavy boots thudding against the floorboards. The front door slammed shut, leaving a ringing silence in its wake. Brenda turned on Ryan. Her face was twisted into a mask of pure fury. You stole it, she screeched. You told me you got a bonus. You told me you were a partner at the firm. I am a partner, Ryan lied, holding his hands up defensively. It's just cash flow. Mom's making this up because she's jealous. She's jealous of you, Brenda. Jealous? I laughed. It was a cold, sharp sound. Brenda, I don't want your kitchen. I want my money. I reached into my purse. I pulled out a folded piece of paper. It wasn't the demand note. I had already served that. This was something else. This was the printout of the email regarding Jessica's business loan. And Jessica, I said, turning to my daughter-in-law, do you want to explain to your mother where the $40,000 for your consulting firm came from? Jessica flinched. She looked at Ryan, then at her mother. It was an investment, Jessica stammered. It was theft, I corrected. Ryan took it from the same account. And since that business doesn't exist, I assume the money's sitting in a closet upstairs, in the form of Chanel bags. Brenda looked at her daughter. Jessica? Is this true? Mom, stay out of it, Jessica snapped. Ryan said he handled it. Why didn't you handle it, Ryan? I tried, Ryan shouted, but she froze everything. She cut my cards. She called the loan. He turned to me, his face red and blotchy. You ruined everything, he yelled. You ruined Christmas. Are you happy now? You humiliated us. I didn't humiliate you, Ryan, I said calmly. I just turned on the lights. You're the one standing there with your pants down. I walked over to the kitchen island. The blueprints for the kitchen were still sitting there, rolled out like a promise. I picked up a marker from the counter, a thick red permanent marker the contractor had left behind. I drew a big X across the blueprints. The renovation is canceled, I said. And Ryan? He looked at me, breathing hard. You have 29 days left on the demand note, I said. $185,000. Tick-tock. I can't pay that, he screamed. I have a mortgage. I have car payments. Actually, I said, buttoning my coat, you don't have a mortgage. You have a private note held by me. And since you're in default, I suggest you start packing. Packing? Brenda asked, her voice trembling. What does she mean, packing? She means she's going to take our house, Mom, Jessica wailed. She owns the note. Ryan told me she was a silent investor. He didn't tell me she could foreclose. Brenda looked around her living room, the room she treated as her second home, the room where she hosted her bridge club, to show off her rich son-in-law. You're going to lose the house, Brenda whispered. Where am I supposed to go? I gave up my lease. I was going to move in here during the renovation. Sunset Pines, I said. They all looked at me. I reached into my pocket. I pulled out the torn pieces of the brochure Ryan had given me. I placed them gently on the marble island. I hear they have vacancies, I said. It's very affordable. State subsidized. I turned and walked to the door. Mom, Ryan shouted after me, you can't do this. We have kids. Where are your grandchildren going to live? I stopped. I turned back one last time. My grandchildren are welcome at my house anytime, I said. There's a spare bedroom. It's small, but it's paid for. You and Jessica, however, you can figure it out. You're young. You're resilient. I opened the door. And Ryan, I added, if you try to enter my house again without an invitation, I'll call the police and file charges for wire fraud. Don't test me. I walked out into the cold morning air. The sun was fully up now. It was blindingly bright off the snow. I got into my car. I didn't look back. I drove straight to the bank. It was closed, but the ATM vestibule was open. I deposited a check. It was a small check from my pension, just enough to buy a nice bottle of wine and a steak for dinner. I was going to celebrate, not because I had one, but because I was finally free. There is a saying in the business world, fast pay makes fast friends. But in the world of foreclosure, slow pay makes for a very quick exit. Ryan thought I was bluffing. He thought a mother would never actually put her son on the street. He spent 29 days trying to find a loan shark, a friend, or a miracle to pay me the $185,000. He found none of them, because when you build your life on a foundation of arrogance and debt, people tend to disappear when the walls start shaking. The 30 days expired on January 25th. At 9 a.m. on January 26th, I pulled into the driveway of the house in Westlake. I wasn't alone. I brought a sheriff's deputy, a civil standby to keep the peace, and a locksmith. I didn't have to go through a year-long court battle. Why? Because 3 days ago I gave Ryan a choice. I told him, you can sign a deed in lieu of foreclosure, voluntarily giving me the house back to satisfy the debt, or I can hand the evidence of your wire fraud and identity theft to the district attorney. Ryan chose his freedom over his house. He signed the deed. He was no longer the owner. He was a squatter. I walked up the steps. The driveway was icy. The contracting vans were long gone. The house looked dark. I unlocked the door with my master key. The hallway was filled with cardboard boxes, not the neat professional moving boxes handled by a crew. These were mismatched liquor store boxes, garbage bags filled with clothes, and plastic bins. Ryan was sitting on the stairs. He was wearing sweatpants. He looked 10 years older than he had on Christmas Eve. Jessica was in the kitchen, wrapping her collection of crystal stemware in newspaper, weeping loudly. When Ryan saw me, he didn't stand up. He just put his head in his hands. "You actually came," he whispered. "I told you I would," I said, stepping over a box labeled Ryan's trophies. "The truck's in the driveway. You've got until noon to get everything out. After that, the locksmith changes the tumblers." Jessica stormed out of the kitchen. Her mascara was running down her face. "This is inhumane," she screamed. "You're kicking us out in the middle of winter. We have nowhere to go." "You had 30 days," I said calmly. "You could have looked for an apartment. You could have looked for a job. Instead, you spent 3 weeks trying to convince a hard moneylender to give you a loan against a house you no longer owned." "We have no first, last, and security deposit," Jessica yelled. "We have no cash." "I know," I said. "It's hard to save money when you're spending $40,000 on a fake consulting business." The front door opened. Brenda walked in. She was wearing a fur coat. She looked around at the chaos with a look of pure distaste. "Well," Brenda sniffed, "this is depressing." Ryan looked up at her, hope flickering in his eyes. "Brenda," Ryan said, "did you talk to your friend with the guest house? Can we stay there for a few weeks?" Brenda adjusted her gloves. She didn't look at Ryan. She looked at a spot on the wall. "Oh, Ryan, honey," Brenda said. "I asked, but she really doesn't like children. And honestly, with your legal troubles, she doesn't want the drama." "Drama?" Ryan stood up. "I bought you a kitchen. I went into debt for you. You're supposed to help us." Brenda laughed. It was a nervous, flighty sound. "I didn't ask you to steal money, Ryan," she said coldly. "That was your choice. And frankly, I can't have my reputation dragged through the mud. I have a position in this community." She turned to Jessica. "Jessie, you can come stay with me for a few days," Brenda offered. "But just you and the kids. Ryan needs to figure himself out." Ryan looked like he'd been slapped. The woman he had practically bankrupted himself to impress was discarding him like a used wrapper. Now that the money was gone. "I'm staying with Ryan," Jessica said surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly. She knew Brenda better than anyone. She knew staying with Brenda came with a price tag she couldn't afford anymore. "Suit yourself," Brenda said. She turned to me. "Goodbye, Evelyn. You really are a harsh woman." "I'm a solvent woman, Brenda," I said, leaning against the doorframe. "Goodbye." "Oh, and Brenda?" She turned back irritated. "That red dress at the Christmas party," I said, giving her a quick up and down look. "It was too tight." Brenda's mouth fell open, but she didn't say a word. She just turned on her heel and walked out. We heard her car start up and drive away. She didn't even help carry a box. By noon, the last box was in the rental truck. The house was empty, it echoed. The expensive furniture was gone, most of it sold on Craigslist over the last week, to pay for the truck rental and a cheap motel room. Ryan stood in the foyer. He held the keys in his hand. "I'm sorry, Mom," he said. His voice was small, broken. "I really am. I got lost, I thought. I thought if I gave them everything, they would love me." I looked at him, my son, the boy who used to catch fish, the man who tried to steal my future. "They loved what you gave them, Ryan," I said gently. "They never loved you. And you were so busy trying to buy their affection, you sold the only person who actually did." He held out the keys. I took them. They were cold metal. "What are you going to do with the house?" he asked. "I'm selling it," I said. "The market's good. I should clear about $400,000 after paying off the first mortgage." "And the money?" he asked. "Are you keeping it?" "I'm putting it back in the trust," one said. "And then I'm taking a trip. Italy. I've always wanted to see the Amalfi Coast." He nodded. He looked down at his shoes. They were scuffed. Can we ever fix this?" he asked. I thought about it. I thought about the forgery, the lies, the nursing home brochure. Maybe, I said, but not today and not tomorrow. You need to learn how to stand on your own 2 feet, Ryan. You need to learn that no is a complete sentence. And you need to pay me back. Pay you back? He looked shocked. But you took the house. The house covers the mortgage note, I said. It doesn't cover the $120,000. You stole from the trust. I expect a check every month, Ryan, even if it's $5. I want to see you try. I paused, looking him dead in the eye. And Ryan? Don't Venmo me, I want a cashier's check. I don't trust your digital footprint anymore. He stared at me. He realized then that I wasn't just angry. I was teaching him a lesson. He would be learning for the rest of his life. Okay, he whispered, okay. He walked out the door. He got into the cab of the moving truck, next to a weeping Jessica. The engine roared to life, a loud rumbling sound of a new, harder reality beginning. I watched them drive away. I closed the door. I locked it. I handed the new keys to the realtor, who had just pulled up to the curb. Listed, I said. Price to move. I got into my own car. I drove home. When I walked into my house, it was quiet. But it wasn't lonely. It was mine, safe, secure. I went to the kitchen. I opened the fridge. I poured myself a glass of wine. I walked over to the trash can. I saw the torn pieces of the Sunset Pines brochure, still sitting at the bottom, where I had thrown them a month ago. I picked up the bin bag. I tied it tight. I walked it out to the curb. I watched the garbage truck come down the street. I watched the man toss the bag into the back. I watched the compactor crush it. It was done.